Hey tribe. So I'm excited today because we are going to be discussing books that I've been reading to prepare for the Appalachian Trail. So first off, I need to get these books back to the library because they are overdue. I have 6 books here. All of them are not specific to the Appalachian Trail. So I do have a few books that were just talking about walking. And we know that hiking is nothing but walking. Obviously, like the Appalachian Trail is something different, but we're going to start with the walking books. My first book is called Walking One Step at a Time by Earl Kaig. And this is just a walking book, but I found it to be helpful and beneficial. He actually is the first person to have completed the foot three poles, the north, the south, and the summit of Mount Everest. So that's kind of just a small background on him. But I enjoyed this book because he talks a lot about how we've gone from a society that, walks and is healthy, riding bikes and things like that, and how we have like transitioned into this space where we don't do a lot at all and we're pretty sedentary. He did have some really good insight. He talks about life just being one long walk. And it's a really short read, but I believe, for me, it was pretty beneficial. And this was like the first book walking. Well, actually, it's not the first walking book I read, but this is the first one that I've gotten from the library. So, Earl Kaig, I want to read one thing out of here. He says human language reflects the idea that life is one single long walk. And he also he says, I always have a feeling of freedom when everything that I need in life is carried on my back over the hours, days, or months of the trip. It is at times like these that I can eat and sleep wherever I wish, where the next morning there are no 8 a.m. meetings and I don't have to go shopping for dinner. The only thing that I start to miss over long periods of time is skin contact, to be hugged or to lie up close to someone. So, and he says to walk is to enjoy simple pleasures. So that's a little bit about this book. Really good read. So we're going to move on. My next read is actually my favorite walking book, and I've read about a year ago. It's Planet Walker, John Francis, and I just happened, my best friend actually knows him personally, so I was able to get a signed copy from him personally. So this book is really special to me. John Francis, this book is amazing. John Francis walked for 22 years and took a vow of silence for 17 years. And he talks about the journey was there was an oil spill. I think it was like in 1971, and that catapulted him to want to make change in the world. And he decided that walking in silence was going to be a part of him creating change in the world. And so he actually did get his PhD in land resources. And I found this book. I actually am going to reread the book again before I hit the Appalachian Trail. If you have an opportunity, pick this big book up. Great, great, great read. And let me just choose something out of here. So he says, silence is always with us, but we do not choose silence. Silence chooses us. If you are called to be silent on your journey, recognize the invitation as a great gift. It is a gift to be shared with others. Your relationship to silence is one thing that will define the uniqueness on your journey. So that's just a small little piece out of this book, Planet Walker. Next book is also a walking book, and I just recently read this. Is a pretty new book. This is called American Ramble, A Walk of Memory and Renewal by Neil King Jr. Right, 2023. So this is a pretty new book. I picked this up in the library, just going through the walking section of the library, and I thought this was a great read. He is a journalist, and he walks from D.C. to New York City. One of the things that moved him, and he's like, I guess in his 50s, I think one of the things that moved him to walk was him and his brother were diagnosed with cancer, and that led him on this long walk. Along the way, he meets a lot of different so he actually calls up a lot of friends that he knows because he's pretty prominent. He calls up different people as he's going through different spaces and places. And they come out and actually teach him about the culture of the land, or just the culture of that particular space. So he meets the Quakers and he gets to sit with them in school, which I thought that was very significant. He also talks a lot, well, not even talks a lot, but he also meets up with a friend who shows him the different trash mounds. And this was something that I'm not privy to, and I didn't know that they were like, I mean, I knew there were trash mounds, but the extensiveness of them, like 13 football fields of trash, and they kind of measured. He went up and stood at the top of the trash mound, and they kind of did this measurement. So I thought that was kind of unique to this book. I don't want to spoil it, so I won't tell you the ending. I will say the ending was great, sad, melancholy, but also a great ending as well. So American Ramble, if you want to check that out, that's a great walking book. So now we're going to get into the trail books. Before I get into the Appalachian Trail books, I read Wild. I know this is very popular. Cheryl Strayed, she walked the PCT. And as the title says, yes, the book was very wild. I loved the book. It was a page turner. I think I read this in about 5 days. My goal is to read a book a week. I haven't quite been meeting that quota. It's been about a week and a half, but this one I did. I took it down in about 5 to 7 days. So Cheryl Strayed, her mom actually passes away, and I don't want to give up the whole story, but I just want to tell a little bit. She passes away, and this is what kind of leads her, not kind of, this is what leads her on her journey through the PCT. Her family kind of separates after her mom dies, like her siblings. They don't, the guy that her mother is married to, her stepfather, kind of drifts away. So she's trying to find her way in life, and she's pretty young, so she hits the PCT. Along the way, she meets a lot of people. She also meets a lot of guys and things like that. The story ends with Cheryl becoming the queen of the PCT. It was a great ending. It was a great fire book. If you're looking for something to really motivate you, I would say Wow is definitely on my list. So thank you to Cheryl Strayed for this one. Next book, okay, I'd be remiss not to mention this book. This book, Grandma Gatewood, and she is definitely a forerunner in the walking of the Appalachian Trail. She didn't just do it once, she did it multiple times. I believe it was 5 or 6 times. This book was pulled on my heartstrings because she starts her life out, and obviously this is in a time where women didn't have a lot of rights. I believe Grandma Gatewood ended up, she got married, and she was mistreated and abused by her husband. At some point, she decided she had to flee because he was probably going to kill her. And, she decided to walk the Appalachian Trail. This is another book that kind of chronicles how automobiles actually come to exist and how they become big business in America. And people, they put down the walking and they, become sedentary. So this is pretty significant for people in the hiking community in terms of even myself. Like, yes, I hike, but I do get in my car a lot. So after I'm reading these books, it's making me want to ride my bike to places and just walk to places a lot more to be healthy. So Grandma Gatewood, bar none. I know a lot of people are like, if Grandma Gatewood could do it, I could do it. But I'm like, wait a minute. We didn't grow up in her time. So let's give Grandma Gatewood her props. Like, she is like, sure enough. She's about that life. So yes, if Grandma Gatewood can do it, yes, you can. But I just want you to recognize, like, she grew up in a time where she didn't have all of the privilege that we do, and we are really like, we have so much in this country. She didn't have all of that, and she went out with this sack on her back, and she didn't have hiking shoes, and she didn't have the right gear. And so that speaks to her and her testament and what she's done. And so I just want to give props to Grandma Gatewood. This book is amazing. If you're going to hike any trail, even if you're not hiking a trail, you're just walking, like, this is a great inspirational story. So Grandma Gatewood. Lastly, and I'm going to have a part 2 because I am still reading books. Our next read is We Were There Too, Pioneering Women of the Appalachian Trail. Love, love, love this book. If you are a woman and you are planning to do a thru hike, or if you just want to be inspired, please pick up this book. I purchased it from the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. I will put all the links below and all the books below. This book highlights Jean Stevenson, Ruth Blackburn, and Margaret Drummond. So just a little bit about the book. This is a knowledge-based book. This is not about them actually hiking the Appalachian Trail, because at this time it wasn't considered a through hike. This was them doing the groundwork to bring forward the actual Appalachian Trail that we know today. So Jean Stevenson, she started out in like 1933, and she worked alongside of Myron Avery, and they shared a commitment not only to routine administration tasks such as writing letters, guidebooks, articles, and report, but also to building, maintaining, and advocating for the trail. And that's truly crucial. First and foremost, we know and we hear a lot about Myron Avery and Benton McKay, and so we don't take anything away from them, but we also want to recognize the women that walked alongside them, not behind them. She is a major key in putting forth the effort in what we see today. And so Jean Stevenson, I'm going to actually have a great picture of her and Myron Avery that I'm going to put up. Next was Ruth Blackburn. She was in charge of land acquisitions, and I believe it was like 1978. The state brought forth a grant to go from 5 million to like 90 million to create the actual through hike for the Appalachian Trail. So we want to give a huge shout out to Ruth Blackburn for that. And then lastly was Margaret Drummond. She was in charge of trail maintenance, and she was Dr. Margaret Drummond, so I don't want to forget that. She received a lot of accolades and awards for her hard work and her being out actually on the ground doing the work, physical work. So, wonderful book. If you have an opportunity, even if you're a guy, it's a great book to read, and it's a great knowledge book to read. So, we were there too. Okay, so my last book that I'm going to talk about, and this, like I said, there will be a part 2 to this because I'm still reading some books, is Becoming Odyssea. This was my last read. Thought this was a great book. She did chronicle like the miles, and she talked, she gave a kind of chronicled the where she was and different camps that she was in. But this was a great book. Jen is her real name is Jen, but her trail name is Odyssea. She's 21, and she does go out on the trail, kind of looking for discovering herself, trying to figure out who she is in the world and how she fits in. She meets a lot of people along the way. She does camp a lot by herself, which was very significant for her. And obviously, a lot of challenges out there as well, but it was something really significant that happened to her on the trail that towards the middle of the book, she actually is on the Appalachian Trail, and she is walking and she sees someone is hanging, like someone had hung themselves and it was a suicide, and that really like shifted her, obviously, right? Like it shifted her whole, probably like weeks gone by, and she was still, processing this. She spoke with the police. So it was a lot that went on in this book, but that was pretty significant. I'm not going to tell you guys the end. Yes, she did finish. She did go on to set a record for the Appalachian Trail after this walk. And so this is a great read. And yes, I will recommend this as well. These were all great reads. Thank you all for joining me. If you haven't and you've been enjoying the content, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Love and hike.